New information brings me new hope to share with this update on the Shanquella Robinson case. I discovered something that may be an indication that extradition is still on the table. I'm fully aware that we're likely all suffering from whiplash from riding the emotional roller coaster that is this case. So let's temper my excitement a little bit. Let's just say I'm cautiously optimistic about this new discovery. You've probably heard about the recent claims that the female members of the Cabo Six have had some form of street justice dished out to them. I didn't come running to you with that for two reasons. One, we don't know if that altercation had anything at all to do with Shanquella. It sounds like this group of ladies is simply comfortable with being in the middle of mess. Word is, the people who engaged with Dejanay, Winter, Elise, and Joya had no idea that they were embroiled in a confrontation with the members of Cabo Six until sometime after it started. And I've seen nothing that confirms that that altercation was in the name of Shanquella. And the second reason I didn't bring this to you, I don't want to promote violence, but I must admit, when I heard the news, I did feel a little satisfaction from the possibility. I'm human, what can I say? And Shanquella's family has been fighting for nearly 200 days now, and to me, it would be nice to see them score a W. If you haven't heard this story, Shanquella Robinson was a beautiful young, bright entrepreneur who traveled to Mexico on October 28, 2022, and was later found dead in her hotel room less than 24 hours after her arrival. Her travel mates said that she had had too much to drink, but then sometime later a video surfaced showing Shanquella naked being brutally assaulted by one of her travel mates, while the rest of them filmed and shouted from the sidelines like they were at a boxing match. Immediately following the trip, the travel mates began covering up what happened. They denied that a fight had ever occurred and insisted Shanquella's death was due to her overindulgence of alcohol and not the assault, where she was tossed from one side of the room to the other by her head and neck. The Mexican and U.S. governments botched the investigation to the point of disgrace and have been less than transparent with the family about the details of the case. Mexico allowed the culprits to escape their country without answering for Shanquella's mysterious death, and the perpetrators have taken safe harbor here in the United States ever since. Both governments did autopsies. Neither was ideal. And you guessed it, they don't agree. One autopsy says she died from internal decapitation, and the other says it was swelling on the brain. Well, the FBI has decided to use the cause of death discrepancy as the reason for not pursuing charges in the case. So to date, Shanquella has gotten no justice. None. They treated her like a bothersome inconvenience, like chewing gum stuck under a shoe. It's appalling. Since the FBI made their announcement, the family and their legal team have come out expressing their disappointment with their decision. The family also slammed the FBI for waiting 5 months to say anything about their plans. They completed their autopsy back in November 2022, before Shanquella was even laid to rest. They determined their position on the case and then intentionally withheld their position until the public temperature simmered down. On October 12, 2023, the FBI made a formal announcement that they would not pursue charges, and many drew the conclusion that the case had been closed. However, the statement that the FBI released to the public did not say they closed the case. Instead, it left the prospect to review and examine new information related to the investigation open. Attorney Sue Ann Robinson, who represents Shanquella's family but is not related to them, spoke exclusively to The Sun yesterday to provide an update on the case. She said, "The FBI says they cannot release the case files to her because the case is still open, because they are waiting for documents to be translated to English that they received from Mexican authorities." Attorney Robinson says, "Again, these are red flags because you've made a decision in the case, you've announced the decision publicly to the family and to the public, but you're saying that the case is still not closed and admitting that some of the documents from the investigative file that arguably would affect your decision to charge have not been fully translated." I see Attorney Robinson's point here. I have a theory on this, but there's more. She also said that the family is deeply disappointed. They're concerned, obviously, about the red flags and the lack of transparency in the investigation, extradition, but they're not deterred, and that there's still a path to justice, and the family recognizes that. When the son reached out to the FBI for comment, they responded in part by saying, as in any case, the government is prepared to review and examine new information related to the investigation should it become available. The FBI pointed the son to their previous release. The language comes directly from it. But I believe that the FBI is signaling that more is happening behind the scenes. We're going to get into it, but first be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on updates to this story, trending topics, and so much more. Now let's get into it. Under the Freedom of Information Act, individuals generally have the right to request access to certain records held by federal agencies, including the FBI, once a case is closed. But there are certain exemptions and limitations. The FBI may withhold or redact certain information, and some information may be exempt, such as information protecting national security, personal privacy, ongoing law enforcement investigations, or confidential business information. If the case involves sensitive or classified information, it may also be subject to further restrictions. Now, the FBI cites their reasoning in their response to Attorney Robinson. They say they can't provide the case files because the case is still open. They say they're not making the files publicly available because the case has not been closed yet. Now, I have a theory on this. I think the FBI is still entertaining the extradition of Daejhanae Jackson. Here's why. In the FBI's response to Attorney Sue Ann Robinson is a clue. In that response, they state that they are waiting for documents to be translated to English that they received from the Mexican authorities. Now, it's been nearly 200 days, and as I said before, the FBI's stance was determined around the time of Shanquella's funeral. That was 6 months ago. They had 6 long months to work with Mexico on any questions, files, and evidence Mexico had to offer. I believe that everything they gathered during that time frame was reviewed and used to make their decision. However, at that time, they were looking to build their own case for the purpose of charging the Cabo 6 members here in the U.S. They reviewed all materials and determined that the evidence didn't rise to the level required to prosecute here in the U.S. I believe that they are now seeking a way to make this case work in Mexico. I believe that the documents that the FBI is referencing in their response to Attorney Robinson were recently requested from Mexico. Here's why I believe this. A couple of weeks ago, I ran across a post that looked interesting, but I wasn't sure it was credible. But now that the FBI corroborates part of this post by saying themselves that they are in possession of documents that have not yet been translated, I feel comfortable sharing this bit of information with you. In my opinion, these are new documents that the FBI is referencing. I don't believe that the FBI would openly admit that they haven't translated and reviewed documents that had been sitting around for 6 months, especially given the public's attachment to this case. I don't believe that they would publicly embarrass themselves by giving a statement that makes them look bad, openly admitting that documents from the case file that would directly impact their decision to charge Daejhanae Jackson have not yet been fully translated. The post that I saw a couple of weeks ago said that on or about the week of May 1st, that the U.S. government requested a certified copy of the Penal Code of Baja California Sur. I submit to you that if this case were closed, there would be no reason for this request, and there would be no reason for the translation of documents at this point. The post also states that the request is specifically for the purpose of understanding the crime of femicide. In my opinion, this is huge. I believe this is an effort on the FBI's part to further explore the possibility for extradition so that the case can move forward in Mexico. It says the U.S. wants a verbatim translation of Mexico's law, more specifically of the law that Daejhanae Jackson is accused of breaking so that they can decide whether to grant the extradition. Before the U.S. will extradite Daejhanae, they need to fully understand the specifics of the Mexican law in question and have sufficient evidence and documentation to demonstrate that there is a valid case against her in Mexico. I believe that they have requested the code and a verbatim translation for this purpose. I think there is still hope for this case to move forward in Mexico, and it appears that the United States is on board with that right now. So let the Cabo Six feel good and comfortable acting a fool in these streets. Their freedom days are still numbered. The family's path to justice is unclear, but still moving forward, and they need your support. Please keep your eyes and ears open regarding their May 19th march in Washington. I've not been able to find the specifics regarding the march yet, but I will update you as soon as I have more information. I can't believe we're still talking about the possibility of arresting these folks after all these months. I feel that this effort is long overdue from the FBI, but what do I know? What I do know is if it means justice for Shanquella, I'll take it. Let's continue the conversation in the comments below. Shout out to all my sources, thesun.com, Gerardo Zúñiga. Justice for Shanquella.